Hey guys, it's Dave and this is Spider-Verse issue number 2 and this is really creepy. I don't know why it fails me really jumping over a bunch of story over there in this issue, and this is a jumbo kind of thing. So anyway, where to go with the good things about this one. If variety is the spice of life, this spider issue is piled high with more spices than a curry plate. Because this issue have bunch of stories from the different spider universe, different Spider-Man. So this is this review given by comicvine.com as my always favorite Korean Deadpool Schroeder. This is 4 out of 5 review, but here is the thing that overall the stories are really cool. 5 stories at 30 pages doesn't leave much room for the character development nor expansion, but that's not really the goal of this book. These issues have been far more about wink and nod entertainment, with a few legitimately interesting tales though thrown in for good measure. This issue specifically splits that about 60-40, giving us 3 great fleshed out stories and 2 that are just for fun, though those latter 2 are the only ones that feature the inheritors Dan Slott and Chris Anka along with Chris Ottomeyer. Open up with the bite-sized video game Spidey, specifically from the Capcom fighting games. He's the historian fighting an extremely OP Malone patch needed badly, and it's great. It's a great for a quick chuckle, but the issue takes off as Catherine Monin, David LaFonte with Alvaro Lopez and John Roach take us to the dreamscape for the recruitment of the legendary Nancy. This story stands it's a different this way. This story stands out for its hilarious adherence to the tropes of that old legends, casting a Nancy as both trickster and severe, playing prank after prank and not batting an eye at things like interdimensional travel. We then get what for me was the highlight of the issue, as Jed McKay and Sheldon Vela give us a hard-edged anti-authoritarian origin of punk rock Spidey in a story that is becoming more and more relevant to American politics, but still manages to be dripping with the style and fashion of a great 80s tale. We then get something a little different as Enrique Puig, Francisco Herrera and Fernando Rizoga give us an entirely Spanish language Spidey tale. I haven't read Spanish in over 10 years, but I got enough. But for my personal opinion, I have not read Spanish for whole my life, but I got enough, and the art is strong enough. But after that also they have given the English translated version also. That's why it is cool. T.I. Templeton and Andrew Crossley giving a nod to the not so Marvel Cinematic Universe, lightening up what seems to be a disparate battle hue. While finding room to go into detail would take up too much space, I'll say that cover to cover this issue feels right. The artist complement the numerous styles perfectly, establishing the tone and tenor of some very different stories effortlessly, and the writing delivers exactly what each of the brave stories need. Bad things about this one: this book is by its very nature all over the place, and unfortunately this means that the middle 3 stories end just as it feels like they were beginning. While the Nancy story felt nice and self-contained, the other 2 big stories felt like there was so much more to know and so much more to tell. But unless there are some last minute something is different, some last minute additions to Marvel's lineup, we all only be seeing more of Spider-Gwen in the long term. This issue winds up feeling more like a novelty than a cohesive vision. There's a difference sometimes. There's the making of changes in this issue and adventures in Potes.com AIPT. This review given by David Brooke, and this is already a good review, and that's just got launching again and again. Spider-Verse is back in all its short story, multi-artist, multi-writer glory. Why is this? That is little is so great, partially because there's no telling what sort of Spider-Man you are going to get, if they will even make it out alive by the end, or how it will tie into the main event. So far it's been a pleasure to read and see what sorts of Spider-Man characters and from what generations Marvel pulls out. So is it good? This issue contains 5 stories. If you count the English and Spanish story separately, with only 2 having any obvious meaning on the event and the other 4 being just plain fun. All in all, this is a great little issue that should find fans of all shapes and sizes. Younger readers can scope out some neat versions of Spider-Man, while those of you following the event should find the punk Spider-Man the most important of the stories. Let's break them down, shall we? The first story is a take on a Spider-Man who is also a video game of Earth 30847. It's a cleverly done one-page story written by Dan Slott. Clearly Slott is getting to have all the fun with the niche Spider-Man characters, as it is a short last issue focused on the newspaper strip. Spider-Man and his narrator makes an appearance and it works at delivering a love. The second focus on Nancy and Spider-Man UK recruiting him. His power is to tell stories and he's from Africa. It has a sense of humor in a fun Disney movie sort of way. The strength of the story is the art by David LaFonte, which reminds me of Chris Batchelor's work. It's cartoony and angular but still rigid and tight. But few things about this one. The story is focused on the Earth 138 where Punk Spider-Man resides. We get to see Spider-Man use a gear to take on an army of symbiotes, one of which is the President. Hell, there's even a dark symbiote. This story is incredibly well drawn with a tangled vibe in its electric lines and chaotic colors. Artist Sheldon Vela owns the art, and the story is pretty interesting in how it ties music into beating the symbiotes. The fourth story is told in Spanish, but it's also told in English also. About a Spanish-speaking Spider-Man, the costume is pretty cool, but rendered in a style reminiscent of Humberto Ramos. Although the digital version has it in English too, we have those stories in English too. So even though you can't speak Spanish or read Spanish, then no problem. Marvel is always looking for you to get to know about the story. The color work reminds me of a cartoon which goes along with the age of Spider-Man, but here a preview of sorts for the big event coming in the summer. The art is very cartoony and really the story is lighter than you would expect considering the situation. It focuses on two Spider-Men who run out of the web fleet at the same time. They have a brief conversation trying to figure out how they are different, and it's only at the last second does the reader realize they do have differences even though they are minor. It's one side it's Venom type of costume and one side it's Amazing Spider-Man. It's a light story that serves as a reminder that no matter how similar these Spider-Man characters are, they still are real Spider-Man heroes who can't be thrown away. It's a good and enjoyable issue with its weakest story still serving up some incredible art. A really great read for anyone, even if you aren't reading the Spider-Verse even. But it's totally different, that's why, so anyone can read, because the four stories are totally different. It's just a short stories like the vintage, the initial stages of Spider-Man, that old saga. So because you've enjoyed, just go to the store and buy this book. You will worth your dollars and pennies and bucks, everything. So have a great day.